It started with a glance, quick, curious, and electric. He wasn't supposed to look at her that way, and she wasn't supposed to hold his gaze for as long as she did. But something about him, something in the way he carried himself with quiet confidence, made her forget the boundaries she had carefully maintained for years. He was young, no more than 23, full of life, with a hunger in his eyes that spoke of ambition. She could tell he was still finding his place in the world, navigating his way through the chaos of adulthood. And yet, when he spoke, there was a certainty in his voice that was rare for someone his age. She admired that. She, on the other hand, had everything: a successful business, a beautiful home, a husband who had once been her world. But something had shifted over the years. The laughter had faded, the conversations had turned into rehearsed exchanges, and the intimacy had become routine, mechanical. She was admired, respected, and envied by many, but inside she was starving, for passion, for excitement, for something real. They met at a networking event, one she hadn't even wanted to attend. He was there on behalf of a friend, a last-minute addition to the guest list. They started talking by chance, small talk about the industry, the economy, the future. She was intrigued by his intelligence, the way he spoke with conviction, the way he made eye contact without hesitation. He wasn't intimidated by her, and that alone was a rarity. She laughed more in that one conversation than she had in months. He noticed. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice, speaking to her as if they were the only two people in the room. It was a dangerous kind of intimacy, the kind that sneaks up on you before you even realize it's happening. When the event ended, she found herself lingering, waiting for him to say something, anything that would justify why she didn't want to walk away just yet. And he did. A simple question. "Would you like to grab a coffee sometime?" It wasn't inappropriate, not exactly. Coffee was harmless. But the way he said it, the way his lips curled into a subtle smirk, made it clear that coffee wasn't what he truly wanted. And the most dangerous part. She didn't want just coffee either. She hesitated for only a second before nodding. "I'd like that." As she walked away, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, a rush of anticipation, a spark of something forbidden. And deep down, she knew this wasn't just coffee. It was the beginning of something she wouldn't be able to control. The first time they met outside of that event, it was supposed to be casual. A simple conversation over coffee, nothing more. But the moment she saw him waiting at the cafe, dressed effortlessly, his eyes lighting up when he saw her, she knew she was already too deep. They talked for hours, far longer than she had planned. There was something about him, something raw, unfiltered. He didn't dance around topics like people her age did. He spoke his mind, asked questions she wasn't used to answering. And for the first time in years she felt seen. Not as a wife, not as a businesswoman, but as a woman. The next time they met, it wasn't in a cafe. It was at a quiet restaurant on the other side of town, where no one would recognize them. There was no hesitation anymore, no pretending. The way he looked at her, the way his fingers brushed against hers as he reached for his glass, sent a rush through her she couldn't ignore. When he kissed her, it was soft at first, testing the waters. But when she didn't pull away, when she let herself melt into him, it changed. It was hungry, desperate, the kind of kiss that came from months of restraint finally breaking. She told herself it was just this once. Just one moment of weakness. But weakness didn't feel like this. It didn't make her feel alive. Their meetings became more frequent. Hotel rooms, late-night drives, stolen hours in places where no one knew them. She wasn't reckless, not at first. She had rules. No texting at night. No calls when she was home. But rules didn't stand a chance against him. He didn't just want her body. He wanted her time, her thoughts, her emotions. And she gave them to him, piece by piece, without even realizing it. She found herself checking her phone more, waiting for his messages, craving the sound of his voice. Her husband noticed the change. He commented on how distracted she had been, how she seemed happier lately. She forced a laugh, kissed him on the cheek, and told him work was just going well. But guilt was a strange thing. It didn't stop her. It only made the moments with him feel more intense, more addictive. One night, as she lay beside her husband, his arm draped over her waist, she stared at the ceiling, thinking about the way the younger man had kissed her just hours ago. She should have felt shame. Instead, she felt anticipation. The first sign of trouble was subtle. Her husband started asking questions. Innocent at first. Where had she been? Why was she home later than usual? Who was she always texting? She answered effortlessly. Years of marriage had made her an expert at sounding natural even when she was lying. But he wasn't a fool. He watched her, took note of her changing habits. She used to complain about exhaustion. Now she had energy. She used to fall asleep early. Now she stayed up with her phone in hand, smiling at messages she never shared. The distance between them, which had once felt like an unspoken agreement, now felt like evidence. She sensed the shift. He was paying attention in ways he hadn't before, noticing things she thought he never would. And yet she couldn't stop. With the younger man, things were changing too. He was no longer satisfied with stolen moments. He wanted more. Wanted to see her during the day, wanted her to talk about the future, wanted her to consider what this meant beyond secrecy. She avoided those conversations, but he pressed. Are you happy with him? His voice was low, filled with something she wasn't ready to name. She wanted to lie, to tell him she was, that this was just an escape. But the truth slipped out before she could catch it. I don't know. That was enough for him. He started to believe there was a chance, started to want things she couldn't promise. And that was dangerous. The breaking point came unexpectedly. A misstep. A moment of carelessness. A mutual friend spotted them together. Just a glance, a brief interaction, but enough to raise suspicion. Word reached her husband before she could prepare. That night his voice was calm, too calm. Who is he? Her stomach dropped. The way he looked at her, the way his hands rested on the table. She knew this wasn't an assumption. He knew. Or at least, he suspected enough to be sure. She opened her mouth, searching for a lie that could still save her, but nothing came. For the first time she was speechless. The younger man sent a message that night. Tell me what's happening. Tell me what to do. She didn't answer. For the first time since this began, she had no control. And that terrified her more than anything. Silence stretched between them like a loaded gun. Her husband didn't press, didn't demand an answer. He simply watched her, waiting. That was worse than yelling. Worse than accusations. It meant he already knew. She wanted to deny it, to weave another lie. But for the first time in years she couldn't. Not when the truth was sitting between them, thick and undeniable. The younger man was waiting for her response, but she had none to give. The fantasy they built was crumbling. The excitement, the passion, the stolen moments. It all felt so small now compared to the weight of reality. Days passed. Her husband didn't bring it up again, but his absence spoke louder than words. He came home late, barely looked at her. The air between them was heavy, suffocating. The life they had built, however flawed, was cracking. The younger man pushed for answers. He wanted to see her, wanted to talk. But she avoided him. She knew where this was going. He wanted her to choose. But there was no choice. Not really. He called her one last time. She answered, knowing this was it. Tell me the truth, he said. Do you love me? She closed her eyes, the answer sitting heavy on her tongue. Maybe she did. Maybe she had, in a way that wasn't meant to last. But love wasn't enough. Love didn't erase consequences. It doesn't matter, she whispered. He didn't beg, didn't argue. He just exhaled, long and tired. He understood. That was the worst part. The call ended. And with it, whatever they had. Her husband never said the words, but she knew things would never be the same. Trust, once broken, never truly returns. They stayed together, but the love between them was now just a shadow. She had thought the affair would make her feel alive. Instead, it left her emptier than before.